The Chiefs are handed their first loss of the season, and the Bills now have the head-to-head tiebreaker if it comes to that for playoff seeding. There's still work to do. Somebody's going to have to hand the Chiefs another loss at the very least. The Bills have many more wins they have to chalk up if they want to catch the Chiefs for the 1 seed. But by winning it head-to-head today, they give themselves an opportunity. Okay? Remember, the Chiefs beat the Ravens. They beat the Bengals. Neither one of those teams are going to catch the Chiefs in the number 1 race. The Bills still can and now hold the tiebreaker. That's massive. And I know it doesn't matter where that game is played. All of us would still assume the Chiefs could beat the Bills. However, if you're the Chiefs and you've got to play all 3 games like they did last year and go on the road and go to Buffalo, it still is a different challenge than having that bye in the first round and both at Arrowhead. They can do it. They've proven they can do it, but it is obviously an advantage for the Bills to have that 1 seed. And so that's why today obviously is big. Let me say this about the Bills as well. The Buffalo Bills can beat the Chiefs in January. They can. Don't tell me they can't. They can. They haven't. It doesn't mean they can't. Okay? Once upon a time, Peyton Manning couldn't get through Tom Brady, Bill Belichick, and the Patriots. Couldn't do it. Every time they met, same deal. In the regular season, Peyton could get a win. In the postseason, he couldn't figure him out. He couldn't solve Ty Law. He couldn't solve that Belichick defense. He couldn't solve that pass rush. Every year, the same bit. Peyton floundered against the Pats in the postseason. And then 2006 happened, and it looked to be the same exact thing. They were down 21-3 at home, at the Hoosier Dome, the RCA Dome, to the Patriots in the AFC Championship game. And they got a score on the board right before halftime to make it 21-10, and suddenly they had a little bit of life. And in the second half, Peyton Manning led the way, and the Colts found a way to get through the hated, vaunted, daunting New England Patriots, and finally got to their first Super Bowl and won it over Rex Grossman, Lovie Smith, and the Bears. Until it was done, nobody thought it could be done. They hadn't, but they could. I'm saying the same thing about the Bills. They haven't, but they can. They can, because I believe this version of the Buffalo Bills is not consumed with having to beat the Chiefs the way the previous one was constituted. There was a lot of veterans on that team that had constantly bumped their head against the Chiefs and couldn't get through it. Every year was supposed to be that year, and it wasn't. They let a lot of those guys go. And I think with the turnover of the roster, more youth on the roster, I think that this team is better served to not have the Chiefs in their mind, which is why they played as well as they did today, I believe. Allen has now matured into a different type of quarterback, one that doesn't make mistakes but still puts up highlight reel quality plays. That scramble to ice the game tonight was that type of moment that only Josh Allen can do in this NFL. Maybe him and a handful of other guys. But, man, his legs, his power, his dynamic playmaking does it against one of the best defenses in football in the Chiefs. And I think that the Bills, now with a real ground game, with Cook and Davis, finally have a balance to be able to not only take on a Chiefs team that knows how to win, but also if you have a lead, be able to hold on to a lead. Set a tone. And I think the way the Bills are playing and the way the Bills are built, they're better served today than they have been in years past. And also, no Stephon Diggs, which I'm sorry is a plus. That's addition by subtraction. I think the Bills are better suited this year than in some of the other years. Maybe not the 13-second season, because that was probably the best Bills version, and they still found a way to lose that game. McDermott might kill you. I'm never confident with McDermott on the sidelines in a big moment. But the fact that they did it today gives me confidence that the Bills can be a different team against the Chiefs, perhaps in January, than they have been in the past. Big win by Buffalo today. Big win. Not only in the standings, but also mentally and kind of putting out there on paper what one of their best efforts would look like. It's a damn good Chiefs defense that just gave up 30 points and the big play touchdown on the Josh Allen scramble when it mattered most. That says something about who the Bills are and what they can do. Chris Jones, Steve Spagnuolo, and company have a lockdown elite defense, which has carried the Chiefs all season. And the Chiefs defense has made one more play when it's mattered most in so many of these games. And today they did not. They gave up the one big play. They gave up the big drive. They gave up the big score. That tells me a lot about the Bills' guts and the Bills' offensive weaponry and the Bills' potential. I think that again, signals something very interesting for when they match up, if they match up in the playoffs. That in a regular season game, the Bills found a way to make the Chiefs' defense vulnerable. And that's not something we have seen yet this season. The Bills did something nobody else has been able to do. Put up 30 points and get the big game-winning strike when it mattered most. Let me ask you about Bills and Chiefs today, because the Bills just iced an important win for them in the playoff race. Gives them the tiebreaker over the Chiefs. Chiefs now have one loss. Bills have two. In terms of January, does today change at all your opinion of whether the Bills can beat the Chiefs when it matters in the postseason?
Not really. I still think it'll somehow end up having to come through Arrowhead. But again, the Chiefs are going to get healthy, right? Hollywood Brown may be available. They're getting Pacheco back. Hopkins is starting to, find his way in that offense. They're battle tested. They're ready for the playoffs. I don't know. I've always liked the Bills. Again, it's going to probably come down to those two teams. But again, we saw a hell of a game today between Pittsburgh and Baltimore too. So I kind of like the AFC side. I mean, the NFC is a little weak, if you're asking me.
So in terms of the Bills, Josh Allen has this amazing run to ice the game, and he's limited the turnovers this year. What have you seen at Josh Allen in terms of maybe how he's developed or evolved a little bit coming into this season?
Oh man, he's just a hell of a player. He just, he's a winner. It was interesting when they got rid of Diggs. I mean, I thought that kind of freed him up a little bit to kind of, spread the ball around. I felt like Diggs always wanted the ball, and it maybe kind of caused a little bit of rift between those two guys. But I really like kind of this team. They spread it around. They throw it good. They got good tight ends. They got a good back. The defense was a little bit of a question early in the year, but they're coming along. I mean, I think it's going to come down to, three teams. I still like the Ravens. I somehow still like the Bengals. I mean, this is a team that may come out of it here in November, December with, 8, 9, 10 wins and sneak in. The Bengals could be dangerous, obviously, with T. Higgins.